It hurt.
I know we do have something serious to talk with
But first.
right now. First of all, say good morning to Sarah Azari, the late attorney. Late because you were late getting here because...
I got a ticket.
You got a ticket.
What did you do?
I was driving on the shoulder, and now I've made an admission, and so much for being able to fight the ticket.
Nice
Right,
going,
you made
Steve.
it. You're all dressed up. You're an attorney. If you can't get out of a ticket, then we're all screwed.
Right, it happens
It's not
to
going to
all of us.
happen.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Did you try? Did you tell him you're going to
I
see
tried, I
Steve?
begged, I said, I'm going on Good Day LA.
And that's when he wrote it up.
And he
Yeah.
wrote it up, and he took his
Yeah.
sweet time.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you shouldn't have mentioned the show because now it becomes a felony. All right, now, the reason Sarah Azari is here because we want to talk about Bill Cosby. It's very confusing with everything that's going on with him. There is the court of public opinion. There are the suits that are not criminal lawsuits.
Civil cases.
Right.
But we have the criminal one now, which is different from all the civil
Right,
cases.
right.
The question we're asking is, could he, at the age of 77 or whatever it is, go to prison?
Well, let's hold our horses, because before we talk about him going to prison and for how long, I mean, he's facing about 10 years if he's convicted. He hasn't been convicted yet. And I think that the strategy that his defense lawyers are using is absolutely what I would do, is to stall and delay the case as much as possible, because he is 78, as you
Right.
said. And I think the ultimate goal in this case is to keep him out of jail, because at the end of the day, if he suffers some conviction,
Yeah.
it's not the biggest deal. He's already been savaged by the media. He is convicted by the media. And so, all right, so let's say he pleads to something for the assault in Pennsylvania.
You know the game. We're making you his attorney.
Right.
You will say what? You will do what?
Number one, I would delay this case as much as possible, okay? And that's what his lawyers are trying to do. They've appealed the bad decision that came down last week by the judge in Pennsylvania, and they're going to take that appeal up the chain of, courts up to the highest court.
With seeking for justice or just to obstruct
seeking
justice?
seeking to throw out the case, because this is ridiculous. His constitutional rights are violated left and right. He has a constitutional right to speedy trial. He could have been prosecuted 12 years ago when he had access to evidence,
right.
when his memory was better, when the events were fresh. 12 years later, the DA's office is saying, oh, we're going to pursue the charges even though we said we're not. We gave you non-prosecution.
That's what happened last week.
Exactly.
And there was a moment in time where it looked like he might actually get out of this whole case.
Right.
Because
It
that
still looks that way, though.
that came up, and then the judge said, no, we're still going forward.
What happened, Maria, is that 12 years ago or 11 years ago, the DA's office in Montgomery County said, we don't have sufficient evidence. Andrea Constant doesn't seem to be credible as a witness. We're not going to pursue this case against Bill Cosby. And not only they told his lawyers that, but they made they had a press release and they told the world that Bill Cosby is not getting prosecuted. And now a new district attorney takes the seat in that county and used this basically in
Can
his
they
election.
argue that Bill Cosby 11, 12 years ago was not the Bill Cosby we know him to be today? The situation
How do you
is
argue
totally
that,
different.
though?
There's 50 women came forward, and I know that you can't exactly bring it up in this case, but it does talk to his
That's a
character.
good point. That's a good point. And one of the things they say is that now we've had these interviews with these women, which we didn't have before.
Right.
We have additional evidence to corroborate Constant's testimony. But you can't still forget about that deposition transcript, which is really damning. He sat there in a deposition, did not invoke his Fifth Amendment right, constitutional right, to remain
Because he
silent.
thought he was in
because
the
he thought
clear.
he was safe.
But-
and to me, that is such a dirty DA. This guy, to do this is...
But
But
I
isn't
wanna ask
that a
you-
risk you take when you're up against something like that? He didn't have to sit there and he didn't have to say what he said. Had those documents not been unsealed, he
Right.
would have been in the safe zone.
He would have, but just as a general legal principle, I don't know any attorney who would let his client or her client testify in a civil proceeding
I have
related to the same.
I have a larger question for you. I'm interested in justice. Everything you talk about has very little to do with justice. It has to do with law.
Justice from whose perspective?
Justice,
women.
Yeah, from the women. If crimes have been committed, the law may mitigate those crimes or not deal with the crimes. So where's the justice?
For the victims.
Well, but when you talk about justice, you also have to talk about a statute of limitations, which is
Why?
our justice.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, because a statute of limitations a statute of limitation exists to protect the defendant and his constitutional rights.
Right.
It's that you have X amount of time within which to bring a case, because otherwise the defendant doesn't have the ability to defend himself. It's too old.
But what
you know?
about the victims? Don't they have a right to be protected
But-
by the
but
justice system?
Yes, they do. But Araxia, you're assuming that all these women are telling the truth, right? Their veracity has not been tested. They haven't been
All right,
cross-examined.
Counselor, it's a good point. Only
Half.
32 of them are telling
Yeah,
the truth.
instead of 50.
How about 2 of them? I feel
All
like
right.
a lot of
Okay,
those stories are
even
going to
two,
fall
even
apart.
two,
No,
even
one.
one.
Right.
You say that cynically too, or you're making a point? You
No,
think
I'm
most
saying
of
it
them are
could
lying?
be 2, it could be 32. We don't know. What we know is, look, I'm not going to underestimate the severity of the case. I mean, I think that there's a multitude of women with a barrage of allegations. All have seemed to have a very, it's a common story that's they're recounting involving the same guy, Bill Cosby. There's no collusion between them. It seems like maybe something happened. Do I personally think Bill Cosby did this? Probably yes.
Yeah.
But from the perspective of a defense attorney and just working in the justice system, I'm there to protect Bill Cosby and the like of him, their constitutional rights. And I think his constitutional rights are being violated
Right,
here.
but a constitutional right can therefore create a wrong. Somebody committed a crime, but your constitutional right protects
It
you.
just seems like we're protecting the wrong person, or the legal system is set up in a way to.
It happens the other way too, though. I mean,
But
look
not
at
often
Making
enough.
a Murderer. Look at what happened to Stephen Avery. He lost 18 years in prison because of, bad evidence.
But there's more evidence. That's another story.
That's
a
another
whole
story
other
for another
segment.
segment.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Come back again. We'll
I
come
will.
back.
It was
Try
so
not to
nice
get
to
a
be
ticket
back.
this time.
Yeah. Leave early. Will you leave early?
Not over, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So we'll have more to talk about.
All right. Why don't you say good morning to Lisa in the newsroom?
Hi, Lisa.
Hello to you. Nice to see you. When we come back at 9, Rocco DeSpirito is here with some sexy and yet healthy Valentine's treats you can make at home for your loved ones. Plus, how to get away with murder. Coming back, and we've got one of the stars, Jack Falahy, with us.
Look what happened to me.
Oh, you have it. Here's the ticket. We have the ticket.
They're coming for you. How much is it for?
Driving while hot.
$7,000. How much is this ticket?
It should say.